Picture this. You have an idea that you genuinely think is good enough to give it a shot. You say you're gonna make sure that it's perfect in every single way possible, and you'll do everything within your capacity to make sure that you'll be able to carry it out. Fast forward 1 week, and you're crippled by the overwhelming amount of doubts that this single project generated. You don't want to be reassured. You don't want pity, you just desperately want to start off clean. You just want a win that will keep you going until you get your next reconstruction of your personal belief system. Is your idea good enough? Is it leading somewhere? Is your work worth it? Will you ever be good enough at creating something useful to hide the fact that your life is totally meaningless? The self-imposed pressure to achieve sufficient results is a double-edged sword that can develop in someone's mind just because of various reasons, but sometimes thanks to the wrong ones. People asking more and more of you, and you trying to satisfy them to finally get some of that validation that you desperately need to exist. Wrong reason. An environment where success is expected but not enforced. Wrong reason. I don't know about you, but all these questions finally made me come to the realization that at some point, I'm more afraid of failure to the point where I don't even try to do anything because I'm just too scared to get crushed under all that pressure. But how does this feeling translate in everyday life, you may ask? Well, that's quite simple. You just end up in an endless cycle of, damn, that sure sounds like something that I'd love to do, into doing the thing until you make sure that everything is perfect. But unfortunately, it's never perfect enough. And then, you feel like you'll never achieve anything of what you told yourself to do, and end up hating and dropping the activity, because you're just so damn scared that your work will never be appreciated for what it is. And I get it. It's a risk that you don't want to take, or at least that you don't want to take alone. You think that you absolutely need that pillar and that second opinion to just prove to yourself that you're just doing the right thing, while the only thing that you really need to do is to not even think about it. Look, let me be clear. I am not exactly the type of person who could just not care and do something implying showing myself to others, while not overthinking the whole process and not being paralyzed by this fear of exposure at the same time. So when I say don't think about it, what I really mean is if you genuinely do your best to do something and you find yourself with absolutely no regrets about the work that you provide, there is absolutely nothing to be shameful about. If you do your absolute best, you have every reason to be proud of yourself because nobody is expected to do the impossible. Well, now you may say, oh, but Ali, based on your stupid ass logic, if I'm not good at something, my perception of good and bad can be altered. Something great for me can be shitty for someone else. Yes, that is indeed correct, you are right. And isn't that the beauty of the whole thing? In the places that I had the occasion to live in, people usually think that if you're not instantly good at something, it's absolutely mindless and dumb to keep pursuing it. I've said it to myself multiple times. I've been lazy enough to think that either you are born a genius at something, or you'll never be as good as the people who are born like that. As if we all wanted to be natural geniuses, but we don't want to become ones. I read a really interesting book some months ago about this very topic. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth. I am absolutely not going to sum it up because I genuinely think that it's one of the few personal development books that are actually worth reading. And of course, this isn't an ad. You can get a preview of what she talks about in the TED Talk that she gave, but basically, she, a psychologist, presents extensive research showing that grit, the combination of passion and sustained effort, is a more significant predictor of success than talent and intelligence. For that, she shares the story of a young girl who won the National Spelling Bee competition. Despite not being a naturally gifted speller, she developed an unwavering passion for words and spent countless hours practicing. Her grit and relentless effort eventually led her to triumph in the highly competitive event. So yes, I know, shocking news. If you want to become better at something, you have to do the thing. I know, it sucks. But that's just how it is, unfortunately. With all this info that I just shot at you uncontrollably, do you finally see where I'm going? You can't learn the job that you've set yourself to do in a single night. So, sure, Your perception of good may not be the same as someone who has 30 years on the field. But who cares? You work, you fall, you get up, and you work again until you don't fall at all. The change that you'd have to operate is on your confidence. To know that you're willing to do this process in public or not. I have a personal story that may illustrate what I'm saying. I love riding longboards. I find it super cool and entertaining. And to be fair, if I could do it for 8 hours a day without starving myself to death, I would do it. But spoiler alert, I was trash for a really long time and I still suck at this to this day. But I was obsessed. I wanted to put my life in danger and break my skull on any given occasion. But I didn't want to make a fool out of myself. That was the limit. It was around my first year at campus, and I was so insecure about anything and everything. So what I did was to find the quietest and least popular place on campus, where no living soul would ever dare to see me fail. But I wanted to make sure of that. So I went there around midnight, and I looked everywhere around me to make sure that I would fall and get up in peace. Some weeks went by, and I learned how to not fall while riding the longboard. And I even learned how to do some tricks, how about that? So if you fall, get up and understand why you fell. Then do it slightly better next time. 0.01% better is progress, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Another question might pop into your head. When do I know that I'm ready? I'm a really pragmatic person. I am not the type of person who would tell you, oh, you'll know when you're ready. I like to put numbers on things and plan things ahead when I feel like it's important enough to do so. Quick example. When I go on a trip last minute to the end of the world for 2 weeks, sure. Let me just grab a couple of underwear and we're good to go. When I plan the next 4 years of your life because you need to see progress, otherwise life don't make sense at all. Let me grab my calculator. When it comes to me, I go with the 70% rule. If I'm sure at 70% that my idea is good, I go for it. And I try to figure things along the way. But in order to have an accurate 70%, you need to plan things precisely and run the numbers. At one point, I listed everything about my current abilities as well as the skills that I was interested in. And I put the number of hours that I've dedicated in order to establish a made-up scale somewhat based on a learning curve. Let's be crystal clear, this is a way to trick my mind and nothing else. Somehow my brain associates working time with expertise. The more I work on something, the more comfortable I'd feel about it and confident I'd feel about it. Every skill and subject is different and they don't need the same time of practice to master them, of course. But having an agenda will of course help you keep track of the hours that you put into your work. And then every month or so you can add them up to your account for an extra dose of dopamine. Don't forget something during that period. You can and you will fail, because that's how you learn. And that's where things get interesting. It's okay and even encouraged to fail because it will simply change your perspective on a subject with new openings. Every single learning opportunity is good to take, in this specific case, in my opinion. So, to sum things up, it's normal to have doubts. They are what's holding you back from doing stupid things. You just need to have the right amount of them. In conclusion, my journey with doubts and the fear of failure has taught me that seeking validation for others and fearing exposure will hinder my progress. Instead, I must focus on doing my best, embracing failure as a stepping stone to success, and building confidence through consistent action. By accepting that learning opportunities are valuable, I can continue to grow and evolve. This was my first episode of Lost in Your 20s. I hope I'll see you soon, and take care. Ali out.